would say that the most important part of our relationship with the European Union is that Ukraine has membership, full-fledged membership in the European Union as our strategic goal. Now we develop our relationship on the basis of the association agreement, and I think this association agreement serves as a very good basis, as a program of reform in Ukraine, and as a sort of framework for the development of our relationship with the European Union now. Speaking about that, it envisages the integration into the European economy and coming closer and developing full-fledged cooperation with the European institutions. It's also important that the association agreement welcomes, acknowledges, if I can use the right language, the European aspirations of Ukraine, and doesn't prejudge a further form of relationship between the European Union and Ukraine. So we see that as a kind of encouragement for Ukraine to do more reform, and now we try to create the critical mass of reform within the country so that we can go further in developing our relationship with the European Union. Actually, due to my professional activities, I was involved in the relationship with the European Union for quite some time. So that's why I try to avoid answering, I would say, directly and very precisely. 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So as we know, we are living in a very difficult world. But I would like to say that now, as I said it before, we concentrate now on the reform within our country, within Ukraine, creating a critical mass of reform. But definitely, it's important for us that the European Union keeps the doors open for Ukraine. How and when we will become the part of the European Union, so we shall see. But in any case, I think that a reformed Ukraine would have a lot of things to bring to the European Union. And especially now, as we are changing the country, as we are guarding the European stability from aggressor, I think that in many senses Ukraine would be not a burden, but the added value to the European Union. So I would, starting with the Crimea, definitely Crimea was, is, and will be Ukrainian. And no country in the world, well, let's be honest, almost no country in the world would recognize the Russian annexation of the Crimea. So how the occupation would happen is difficult to say. It's quite clear that it cannot be achieved by military means, but we rely on diplomatic methods and diplomatic tools. We also rely upon the sanctions imposed on Russia. It's also important to create a really convincing and viable alternative in Ukraine to Crimea, to the Crimean reality, where the situation with human rights have been deteriorating continuously, where economic freedom has been curtailed as well. In this sense, it would definitely take quite a long period of time, but it's important not to lose the focus. And the focus is the occupation of Crimea. Of course, and actually I didn't speak about the war which was unleashed and which is now being administered by Russia and its satellites. But definitely the situation remains to be difficult. It's difficult for Ukraine, first of all, from the point of view of human loss, over 10,000 people. But of course, it has a negative adverse effect on the development of Ukraine in the sense that the military effort takes quite a lot of resources. And I might say that we have to devote to the defense 5% of our GDP. That's an enormous figure.
It is.
Especially it's an enormous figure for Ukraine that is in the situation of transformation, and due to the Russian aggression, we have lost around 7% of our territory, with the population of 6 million people, 20% of our GDP. So the losses are enormous. But of course, we are trying to resolve two issues and two existential problems. That is the defense of our independence, but also transforming our country. So it becomes modern, efficient, really democratic, and really sovereign. I think they are very good, they are very dynamic. It's really important that France is in the forefront of diplomatic efforts to stabilize the situation in the east of Ukraine, that it's adamantly, as they say, en béton for supporting the territorial integrity of Ukraine. They appreciate this quite a lot. But we are also trying to develop our relationship in all spheres across the board, especially in economy, in education, in other fields, so that the potential, we were speaking about the potential of bilateral relationship for quite long. Now it's really time in the moment to transform the potential into the reality.